Hi, today we're going to do a group of 5 sheep, 3 sheep, how many sheep you want to do, using a background which has been treated with salt. This is the finished article, and this is my sketch for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the background here and put salt on it. And then I'm going to leave that, making sure there's no salt on the sheep, and then complete the sheep. And hopefully by the time we've finished, the background will be dry. If not, we will need to leave it. So to start off with, I'm taking my number 2 mop, pointed mop, making sure it's nice and clean. And I'm going to start the background. The paints we're using this time are Payne's Grey, Burnt Scarlet, Raw Sienna, and a purple, and I can't remember what purple it is. It is Schminker Violet, and that's all we're using. And so I start off with doing some Payne's Grey. Payne's Grey I use is Winsor & Newton because it's to a bluey shade. I start off I'm going to mix the colours on the paper. So I do a little bit of that, then I wash the brush, drain it slightly, pick up some purple, and then paint that on, blurring that edge with the Payne's Grey. Wash the brush. I have a little bit of raw sienna in there. So it's got to be done fairly quickly. Now you see that's mixed it totally on the paper. So I'm just going to go over, because that's a muddy colour. I've blotted that out, but I'm also very, very understanding that it's drying very quickly. So I'm going to wet the paper over the first 2 sheep, going very carefully between the sheep so that the background doesn't go over the sheep. I'm going to get a little bit more of the violet and come down here round his tail, her tail, round, join that into that violet there. And because things are drying so quickly, I've got a fire going in this room and sunshine. I'm going to put a little bit of salt in that to start off with. Just sprinkle. I'm using sea salt, which is a largish grain. I'm going to go back into the Payne's Grey and do some more up here. I'm going to try and keep the Payne's Grey away from the sheep heads because they are dark. So around the sheep, I'm going to be either using the Burnt Scarlet, which is a Daniel Smith colour, or the Violet, which is a Schminker colour. So around their heads, joining into that wet edge that's of the Payne's Grey there. And then because everything's drying so quick, I'm just going to put some salt on there before it dries too much. So a little bit of violet, join the violet up into that red, go around that sheep's head there very carefully, down past that one's tail, and underneath. Now I'm going to go, I know where the sheep's legs go, so I'm going to go over them so that they're standing, because the sheep's legs are dark, so I can go over the sheep's legs. And again, a little bit of salt in there, not too much. Brush off or back onto the area that needs salt. Back with the Payne's Grey, clean brush. Payne's Grey, oh, that's a nice dark bit, into that leading edge there, which is getting very dry. And I don't mind the Payne's Grey being against the sheep's body, but because they're white. Okay. I'm just putting a little bit of water now onto the background because it is all drying so quickly. Right, a little bit of the violet, right, round that ear, and then under that ear, round, and joining up into that Payne's Grey. If you can see any definite lines, just go over them and agitate them. Okay, so on with some salt. We've got some drying up, but I'll show you what to do with that. And a little bit of red. So red goes into, oh, I think that's orange. It's not what I wanted at all. Right, where's the red gone? There it is. Back into the burnt scarlet, round that sheep's head there, round, right, clean brush, back into the violet, round that sheep's head, round its body, legs, and then go over the legs, because we can draw them in with the Payne's Grey when everything else is dry. All right, and now I'm going with some Payne's Grey there, up that line, so that you've got a defined sky, which I don't normally have, but in this case, I've got a really hard line there, so I'm just going to agitate that slightly. Join that up there. That's going to be a bit lighter in shade. That needs to be, that's dried way too much. It is very warm in here. So I'm just putting another wash on. And then very quickly with the salt. Put it all around where you've just painted. We'll brush it off the sheep in a minute or two. That is probably enough. I've got salt everywhere now. What I need to do now is, because it's so dry, is I need to spritz it. So I've got one of these little bottles and spray. Hold it away a bit, not close, and just spritz it over the salt. Now we've got wet sheep. So I'm just going to move with a kitchen towel, going to move the salt off the sheep because it got everywhere, just off the sheep, and then dab up or dry with the, just blotting, just dry the sheep. And also underneath where this is snow, we don't need that wet. So I'm just drying it up, and then we can leave the background to dry, and at the same time we can do the sheep. What I need now is a brush, just to brush the salt off of the sheep. So get all the salt off, just with a clean, dry brush, just brush it away. Doesn't matter if you've gone over the ears with the paint, we can sort that out. So that's it. They're all salt-free, and it's around the it's all on the background. I'm just making sure that the bottom of it is dry and clear of, I'm just blotting it, and I'm just going in with a thing wrapped around my finger, the kitchen towel, and just making sure that that is dry. And then we just have to leave it for a few minutes to dry up. So I'm going to wait for a few minutes. Hi, right. Well, I think I've left this probably for about 10 minutes. And the next thing I'm going to do is use the rigger with my indigo or my Payne's Grey. Payne's Grey is Winsor & Newton. So if you haven't got Winsor & Newton Payne's Grey, use indigo. And I'm going to do the sheep legs. So starting off with, well, you choose wherever you want, really. That's that one there, and he's got one that's on the other side. Right, the next, and he's got one, oh, that's not dry. So quick blot and move on to something, to another leg. Let's try that one. Yeah, that one's dry. And then that's the other side of the back leg. Okay, and the front leg here. Just going to move that little bit of salt over, and hopefully that's dry there. And that's the, oh, even not careful enough sometimes. So that's that bit, and that's not dry because that has some salt on it. Oh, that's a good one. Right. How are you? No, they're not dry either. I'm just moving the salt off the bottom here. They're not dry. So I just give that one an extra. And that one, and blot it off because it's got a funny shape. And that one is a bit better. Now, this is what happens when you do things and they're not dry. But it's not the end of the world. So we'll leave that. We might be dry under there. Let's have a look. It's just a case of looking. So this is, yeah, that one's okay. And then he's got his other front leg there. That one's okay. That's the back leg. And then he's got another back leg there. Right, he's okay. Let's look at this. It's got a back leg there, and then one just here, and a front leg there, and a front leg just here. I'm not sure about this one here. I don't think that's quite dry. So let's just tidy those up a bit. That's his back leg there. You can't see the end ones of the front leg. Make sure it goes down to the snow, and we'll leave those front legs for the time being. What I'm going to do next is take the small mop with the point, so number 2, and I'm going to get a little bit of raw sienna, not too much, quite a weak mix, and I'm going to put that underneath their chins. I'm going to make sure I've got no salt there. So I'm choosing this one here because it's easiest to do. So I've put a patch in. What I don't want to do or to have is defined edges. So I've cleaned my brush, I've blotted it well on the kitchen towel, kitchen roll, and I'm pulling the colour back into the centre so that it blends into the white. Now we're going to do that obviously another 4 times. Well, no, perhaps just a 3, because this last one, he really hasn't got any, or there isn't much to show. So this one, so I'm under his chin, down the front of his chest, like that. Then I'm going to clean my brush, blot it on my paper, and pull it back into the centre, and blot it again and pull it back into the centre. It's just a suggestion of colour there, not in your face or anything like that, just a suggestion. So this one, so underneath his chest, coming down, I suppose I should say her chest really. And again, a clean, just damp brush to push it back into the centre, and it sort of blends it out. You can leave it a little bit stronger down this line here, but it just colours the paper slightly with, but I don't want a line. And again, this one under a chin, coming down. Clean the brush, dry, so it's only just damp, and just pull that colour back so that it just blends in. And I will give this last one a little bit, just under here, going round that one's, round the one in front's bottom. Clean brush, dried, and just allowed to colour. So that's them. Now, I think this leading sheep here, probably his legs, her legs, are dry enough. So I'm going to put some Payne's Grey onto the rigger. Look to see where the legs are. Now I have made this one's body way too high. I've gone wrong with the, so I'm just going to do the legs there, and then we've got a bit of the background showing. But if I do them right up to its body, it'll look funny. And I'm just doing the one leg there. We can get rid of this by using this colour that we've got here as its shadow underneath, because sheep have dirty tummies. So I'm just agitating the paint and making it look like it's his tummy. So lifting the paint up with the brush, blotting it, and then using that as his dirty tummy. So that's it. He's got mauve shadow underneath his tummy. The others, I'm going to do the same sort of thing, make their dirty tummies, not too dirty though. So this one, I'm going to do a little bit of Payne's Grey. So I've got a Payne's Grey fairly weak on the brush. Clean brush, agitate it in around the bottom of him. Clean brush, only damp now. Push it up a little bit and then pull it back down with a fairly dry brush. I don't want to see a line, and if you can see a line, just go a bit further out and pull it back down so that it blends into the white above. Now we're going to do that for the next three. But this one's got haunches, so I'm just going to do that line there. A little bit of Payne's Grey there, a little Payne's Grey there, and that line there. Clean brush, blot it. This one, I'm going to pull that paint down, blend it out a little bit, pull it down towards his bottom, her bottom. Then I'm going to do the same with the tummy. Clean brush, go a little bit above the paint and pull it back down to the bottom of the sheep. The same with this line here, the front leg, blend it out. We've got too much colour, so clean brush, blot it on the tissue and pull it down towards the sheep's feet. Now, that's it. I've got a lot up there, so I'm just going in with a very dry brush and just pulling it down. Okay, so next one. A little bit of Payne's Grey on my brush, not too dark. Got the front there, and he's got the back there, and then he needs some on his tummy. It's very light, that one. Let's put a little bit more in that. So blend it out towards his bottom on this side. Nice and dry, and pull that down so that it doesn't leave a line. A little bit more water, but not too much to agitate the colour on his tummy, and agitate that line there. So it's just a line. Right, clean water, blot it down, because I've got a lovely line, and sheep don't have a line on their tummies. And this one needs a little bit at the front there. Clean brush, clean it, dry it, agitate it round, dry it again, pull it down. It's just blending it so that it goes seamlessly from the raw sienna that we put on the chest. Now I've got a line there, so just look at it, wiggle it around with the point of your brush, because the last thing we want is a line. Right, so the last one, oh, I've got salt on in there. Just push it off. So on his tummy and down that haunch there. Blend the haunch backwards towards his bottom. Pull, blot the brush, pull that down so that that line remains, but there's no top line of paint. Clean water, agitate on the tummy. Oh, I'll let this one dry a bit. Come on. And that's it. I've got a line there which I don't want. So I'm trying hard to lift it off. So all of them have got dirty tummies now. I've noticed that I've been a little bit overzealous with the background on that one. So I've just put a little bit of shadow and hopefully I'll give it a little wiggle. Clean brush, blot it dry and pull it down. Give it a wiggle where that background has been. It's drying very quickly in the room today, so anyway. So we have our sheep with dirty tummies. They've all got legs. I'm going to go over the legs again whilst we just let the shadow on the bottom of them dry. So I'm just taking the dark blue or Payne's grey and just going over the legs again with the rigger. Some of them are a bit lighter than others. So we just make it so that they're visible anyway. So I've got a little bit of salt in the middle there, which probably I didn't want, but there you go. I'm now going to do, hopefully, the sheep's head. It looks to me as if it's fairly dry around the sheep. So I'm going to take the rigger again and the dark blue or Payne's grey and start with this one here. I should do two washes of of the colour. I've got a piece of salt on the end there. So I'm just blocking him in. Need a little bit more water. Blocking him in. Right. Just push the salt out of the way slightly. Go make a nice ear shape. Make a nice ear shape on that one. Oh, bit of salt. Never mind, it'll have to stay there now. So fill that ear in as well. That's it, that's that one's head. Right. Just move that piece of salt out of the way. It's stuck. I'm going to have a blob there. See if I can block that up. Well, yeah, that's what I'll have to do. Right, so this one's looking more towards the camera. This one's not camera shy at all. So it's the dark blue Payne's Grey. Make a nice ear. And that side. And then outline his face. And block it in. It's as simple as that. If you do it so that it's not too wet and heavy, start off with, they'll soon dry and you can give them another wash. Right, this one sort of lost its ears in the background, and so I'm just coming over with the head because they have a sort of a curved head, round with the ear, that side, and then in with the face. Very simple sheep's face, really. No eyes, no nose, nothing. Thank goodness for black-faced sheep, is all I can say. Okay, moving on to the second sheep from the left, making sure that the salt's out of the way. Right, I'm going to give him a nice ear. And a nice ear that side, because it's got covered a bit up by the background. A nice head, nice rounded head. And then just cover it in. Painting by numbers is alive and well. So we just, oh, this is a long-faced sheep. Right, now just colour his ears in. There he is. And the last one, I'm just going to move that bit of salt out of the way, and that one. Still with the rigger and the blue. Oops, come on, salt, out of the way. That's it. Colour it in. You see now why I didn't want Payne's Grey or the blue next in the sky next to the sheep, because I wanted to be able to pick out the sheep more vividly. You'd had the blue, it would have, you wouldn't have been able to see it. Right, that's the first coat of sheep's heads. Yeah. Whilst sheep's heads are drying, we'll just do some shadow. So I'm taking my mop brush and a very, very weak wash of Payne's Grey and making sure that there's no salt on there. This is the snow, so we go underneath that one and underneath that one and pull that down, and underneath that one and pull that down, and underneath that one, pull that down. I need a bit more, and underneath that one, pull that down. That one's way too dark. So water and lift it out. And if that fails, blot up what you can. Clean water. And lift as much as you can out. We all make mistakes. And the trick is to be able to remedy them. So we've got the idea that there's 5 sheep standing there. I don't like this harsh edge here, so I'm just going to I'm going to agitate it slightly. Everything's drying so quickly, I don't think I can make any difference to it. Never mind, I'll blot it up. That's drying so quick. Make sure your shadow meets your sheep's feet. Now we'll give their faces another coat. I think they'll be dry. So Payne's Grey. And just do another, go away, another wash over so that the faces are really, really black. And they stand out well against the sky. Right, this one, his ears are a bit wishy-washy. He's not that dry. And this one. And this one. Some of it dry darker than others. It just depends on how strong a mix you made in the first place. I'm just going over some of the shadow that we put in, because some of it looks a little bit heavy. Just seeing what we can lift up, if anything. I can see a line on this one. And of course this one has got a different colour shadow to him totally. Whilst we're waiting for that to dry, I'm just going to do a little bit of grass. So I'm taking the dark blue or the Payne's Grey again and just pushing into the paper and flicking up. This is with the rigger. And I try and do what I don't normally, and that is randomly space. Then with the mop, just grab the bottom of that, agitate it slightly, and follow the shadow line down, because it's going downhill. So with each of them, oh, this one's in a line. So we've got the idea that they're standing on a ridge and the ground is falling away. So I'm just going to put a little bit of a blue, what's on the brush there, just to... Then we're going to leave it a while because we need to see how well the salt has, or the background has dried. I have been known to leave salt on overnight, which is fine. Just do something else in the meantime. I don't like that there. So I'm just agitating it. I'm just going to give it a quick blot like that. And oh yes, this little bit here. Oh, he's got a dirty back, this one as well. And just agitate the blob of paint and pull it out. Dry the brush and then pull it, the colour, back towards where it came from. Right, so I'm going to leave this to dry, and it could be some time, and we'll see what happens next. Okay, so I have checked to see whether we're dry, and very gently with my finger, I have just been using my nail just to push the salt away. And as you can see, it's made a nice pattern here. Normally, I would suggest perhaps leaving it for longer than I have only have done. But it seems to be okay apart from when we get to here, and then that's not worked so well. That I think it's still wet, so but never mind. You get the idea. I'm just pushing the salt very gently out the way. It's sticking, so I'm just using my nail just to push. I'm not going sliding my nail into it or anything. I'm just using it as a bit of a scraper. So Payne's Grey takes the salt really nicely, as you can see. This was just a light wash, this bit here. This was a bit darker. And as you can see, it's working quite well. That bit was dry and didn't get spritzed. You can find bits of salt everywhere for ages after this. Glistening in the sunlight or whatever. Yeah, it sort of did it, but not really that well. Never mind. So it's just a gradual release of salt. That's it for now. There's bits to be picked off or to be got off later. So you can save that salt if you wish and use again. So that's that. So we have there they are. 5 little sheep ready to go off into the world. If you would like, you could splatter some white, either some white gouache or some white acrylic onto that. Cover up the sheep. Well, no, because it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of snow on their faces, if you would like to do that. And the only other thing to do is to sign it and say, look at what I've done. So I'm just going to sign that. So that's S-H, and I'll put the month and the year. What a year. Okay, and that is sheep. Okay, thanks for listening. Thank you. Bye.